Hey everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you don't know me already, my name is Evangeline Rattray. I'm a 16-year-old author, and that's all you need to know about me. But in today's video, I'm going to try to explain to you guys my go-to questions for beta readers, because I am currently in the reviewing process of my beta feedback for my third book right now. Yeah, pretty exciting, pretty nerve-wracking. If you don't know what beta readers are, it's kind of when you just like recruit random people. They could be people you know, but most of the time they're random people, so they're not like biased or anything, and you get them to read your book and answer some questions and give you overall feedback so that you can better your book from an outside perspective. And I think this is the most nerve-wracking part of honestly just any book editing, publishing it process. And I think that's because you're getting your first set of eyes on your project. You're getting constructive criticism most of the time. I actually like tweak out before I read any of my feedback. I have like my questions on my phone that I gave to my readers. But before I tell you guys all the questions I use, because there's a lot, I do want to tell you guys to give your beta readers a deadline, because 99% of the time they're going to stick with it. This is my third time going through the process of beta readers. My first book I had one beta reader. I didn't have a social media presence, and that really helps you to get beta readers. This time I have 5, and I think the area you kind of want to be in is like 3 to 6. I wouldn't do more than 6 because that's a lot for you to edit, and I feel like there's going to be a lot of repetition. Like, there's not going to be so many different things that someone can tell you to edit in your book to the point where you need to have 10 beta readers. Like, that's just unnecessary, and it creates more work for yourself. Yeah, the different ways to find beta readers. Currently what I do is I use social media, because I do have a pretty large social media presence, specifically on Instagram, but it's growing on here. This is my Instagram, if y'all want to follow it, because I'm way more active on there. The way I like to do this is I make a post that says beta readers wanted, and I use like a bunch of hashtags. I'll put some examples of hashtags you guys can use in your post to like get more traction, because if people are looking to beta read, they're gonna actually search for specific beta reader posts. They're not just gonna wait for someone to post something. So yeah, I make a post saying beta readers wanted for my book. I put the general word count and the genre, like that kind of stuff, but I don't tell them my blurb or anything, because I have like 17,000 people on my Instagram, and if they all know my blurb before it's published, plagiarism could happen. So what I did this time around was I made a Google form and I put it in my link tree in my Instagram bio, and I put a bunch of questions on there, and some of the questions I put to find them were like, why do you specifically want to read my book? What makes you think you would be a good beta reader? What's your experience beta reading? Are you a writer? Are you an avid reader? Are you a professional in any like spaces that could relate to my book, like mental health areas? Like, are you a therapist? Are you studying English? Are you in like university for something? Like, I just want people's background so that I can know what to expect from them, and then I can cater the questions that I would give them as an actual beta reader to their experience and what I think they could help me with. So I did the Google form, and also I asked them to answer most of the questions in like 2 or more sentences, because I want to see your sentence structure. I want to make sure you can actually like communicate with me in some sort of depth where I think I could get a bunch of different points from your feedback, and it's not just, oh, this was good, this was bad. It's like, this is good because, or this was bad because, or I liked this, but you could change this because, like all of that different stuff. I used that, and I found my 5 beta readers, and I DM'd them, and I was like, thank you so much for like applying to be a beta reader. I've selected you. Let me know if you're still interested. These are the questions I want you to answer. This is the actual document. This is the full blurb, so you actually know what you're getting yourself into, and that'll tie into one of the questions I asked later. And yeah, the other way I found beta reader, and this was my first book, and I think I had, like, being generous, 500 followers on Instagram, so I didn't want to use that platform because I didn't have that much of an audience. So I went on Goodreads, and I can show you guys what this is. The Goodreads actually has a beta reader group that you can join, and it's literally just called beta reader group. It's like, I don't know if you can see it, but it just says beta reader group on it, and then like that's the picture. 30,000 members. That means 30,000 people get like notifications when you post, and this is focusing really weird. They get notifications when someone posts in the group, and there's like a bunch of different discussions, basically meaning these are different areas of like both discussions and requests for certain things. So there's like authors seeking free betas, that's what I did, and so there's a bunch of people's posts requesting beta readers, and what you do is you put your blurb in, you put your genre in, you put your like age range in, your word count, your title, all that stuff. You give them ways to reach you, like your email, and basically people just reply to your post if they're interested in beta reading, and then boom, you got a beta reader. So overall, I filtered some questions to experienced betas, writers, readers, professionals, that kind of thing, because I don't need everybody to answer the same question. I'm gonna get the same answers for a lot of them. So a lot of them I asked everybody, but some of them I was like, okay, only the avid readers really need to answer this, and then some of them were like, oh, only the writers need to answer this, whatever. So first one, asked everybody, what were your overall thoughts? How did you like the book? Would you read this book if you weren't a beta reader? Like things like that. They just give you a general feel and that kind of thing. Another one I asked everyone was, did the first 5 pages make you want to continue reading? Why or why not? That's the most important part, specifically if you're traditionally publishing, because you only send agents your first 10 pages. And most of the time, they will click off of your document in the first 5 if it's not intriguing enough. And that's the hardest part, is definitely the opening pages. You have to hook your reader, you have to establish your main character, you have to get the setting down, you have to help the reader understand what genre it is, that kind of thing. You have to do so much in such little time. And so I think I asked a few questions about the beginning just because I felt like that was necessary. After that, I have one that was specifically for writers and experienced betas, but it was mostly like a writer question. It was, what would you do differently in the first chapter? And this question is super important because writers, we have experience writing these first chapters. Why would I ask a reader what they would do differently if they've never been in this situation? So yeah, I asked the writers what they would do differently. And then, at what points did you lose interest? So important, but also scary, because I don't want them to lose interest at any part of the story, but some of the parts some people will like, some of them other people won't like. The parts that were pointed out to me as people lost interest were so different. You kind of have to have all those things in your mind and create compromises for all these different types of readers, because again, that's who you're catering to, and you want to make sure that this book is good for overall consumption and not just for a certain type of reader. After that one, I said, what did you like the most / didn't like? Everybody's super respectful answering this question. While it's good to like know what parts are bad, you still want to have constructive criticism, and you don't want to like cut out 10 pages of your book. You just want to change parts of it to make it more interesting. So after the kind of the high and low points, I said, is there anything in the manuscript you felt confusing? This is usually where people would answer things like, oh, you mentioned this like early in the book, and then it just like never came back, which is a plot hole. And then anything inconsistent or underdeveloped, and this would be like if a character had a second plot line and it was like talked about throughout the story, but it was something that would be super impactful to a person and it just seemed like whatever. For example, if their parents died when they were super young and so they're in foster care, whatever, but like they just mentioned, oh, I'm in foster care, like, oh, I don't really like have a home, but they're not like really impacted by that at all, would be kind of weird. And for them to just like sweep it aside might be a way of coping, but make sure you incorporate that into the story instead of it just being tossed aside, because then why would that even be a part of the story? Then I asked questions about the characters, and I said, describe what you think my characters look like in your head, because I feel like one thing I miss out a lot on is describing my characters accurately and enough to the point where the reader understands what I want them to look like. So I didn't state enough that one of the characters had like a certain hair color, and so my readers were like, I know she's supposed to have this hair color because you mentioned it one time, but like she definitely has this hair color. And I was like, okay, I'll change it, whatever. Like that's what you need beta readers for. So I was like, I need to find ways to incorporate their hair color, eye color, whatever they look like, especially if that's like kind of a significant part of the story. And then did you find the main character to be relatable, or did you develop sympathy for her? I just wanted to know what the overall vibe was with my main character, because while I can interpret that mostly by myself, it's good to have other people be like, oh, I hated her, oh, I loved her, like I felt like I really saw myself in her, like things like that. Just so you know, someone's like, oh, she was just like so nice, but she was really supposed to be mean, you would change that. Overall, how did you feel about all the main characters, and can you tell them apart personality wise? Because sometimes your writer voice merges with other characters, like, and then they start to sound the same, which would make sense if they're like, if there's two characters like becoming friends, so they start to talk alike. But if you just like forget to have them sound like their own individual people because you aren't thinking about it, not because it's intentional, you're going to want to change that, and your readers can tell you that. And then I asked, how'd you like the ending? Did you feel like it wrapped things up? Do you think it was more of like a cliffhanger vibe? Well, what were your thoughts? Was it satisfying? Whatever. What did you believe was the overall theme? And while a lot of people don't purposefully put themes in your story, a lot of time it forms throughout, even if it wasn't the main idea at the beginning of writing your novel. What books, movies, and or TV shows do you think my book is similar to? This is so important, and this is also the hardest one for betas to answer. Like, I cannot stress enough how much I need these, like this and the what does the character look like and the first 5 pages question. These are my top 3, okay? Keep these in mind. Specifically if you're traditionally publishing. If you're not, like, it's still important because you could use it to market your book and be like, oh, if you like this, then you'll like this. For traditional publishing, when you are querying literary agents, they want you to have comp titles, and comp titles are books or movies or TV shows that you would compare to your book to help the agent and future publishers determine what area your book would be marketed in. Usually they want your comp titles to be like within the last 5 years, so like 2020 to present, so that it's like somewhat of a new type thing. And then the last question I asked is, did you think anything was missing from the story? Did you want to see something happen that didn't happen? For example, if you are writing a romance and it's supposed to be a slow burn is good. The slow burn sometimes is too slow and they just kiss on the last page and that's it. You really get no satisfaction other than that last sentence of, it was magical, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes your readers don't want to see that. Sometimes they want like a little snippet of life with the two characters together. Like if a reader was like, oh, well, their relationship was missing. Like it was just pining the entire time and then what? Like there's really no satisfaction at the end. That's kind of what they would answer for that one. So yeah, those are my questions. Beta reading should be like pretty much the last step of your editing process before querying literary agents if you're going the traditional route. So I would not get beta readers at the way beginning of your book. Like I wouldn't send them your first draft unless you're also going to do another round of beta reading towards the end of the drafting process, because you want feedback on the end result, not the beginning, because sometimes the beginning is so difficult to decipher and everything. Yeah, you do whatever you think is productive. You don't have to ask your beta readers all these questions I gave you. These are just examples, just what I do, what I've gathered from watching other videos, from reading my book myself and being like, I wonder what someone else would think about this part. That's kind of the gist of having beta readers. So thank you guys so much for watching. I know this video was highly requested and I'm so glad I could make this video for you guys and clear some things up about this process. I'm not an expert by any means, so take everything I say with a grain of salt because I've not been published before, so I don't know if any of this is actually going to help you get published, but this is what helps me feel like my story is better and I feel confident in my writing and things like that. So yeah, see you next time.